You lip sync, we drip ink. Welcome to Kbot 9 casting from Sandusky, Ohio. And 9, it has been a fantastic day to kick off Splatoon 3.
Hey.
That is right. It has been a chaotic day full of a bunch of action. We've had our fair share of delays, of course, but the action on the field and on these maps in the Splatlands has been absolutely chaotic.
Hey.
I don't really know what else there is to say other than how chaotic this has been. It is complete and utter anarchy all around, with the teams coming in full force, with the amount of, specials and all of these other sorts of things that are coming out as our competitive players here in Sandusky, Ohio are trying to figure out how to play this game to kick it off. And of course, you've had the pleasure of playing earlier today. A little bit. Hey. But hey, look. The teams got here by fighting through their Swiss group stages, and now we've got our top 4 contenders to come on through here to round out the stream tonight, and we will be showing you both semifinals and then the final match. And 9, it's time. We'll get into things here. Lemons versus test1 to start off. These teams have been, actually playing quite well. test1 just came off of their pool's victory in Wave D. And now they're going to be looking to, try to carry that momentum into the rest of this match versus Lemons, who probably have had some time to go back to their rooms and prepare a little bit more for this.
Yeah, and they have a little bit of time to actually unlock more weapons. And that's something that when we were first in here today, I know a lot of teams were saying, hey, I've got like 3 weapons here. How are we going to build our team comp around that? So both of these teams have opted to go with some comfort picks here early on, but as the games move along here, they'll start to adapt a little bit more. I would say what I have noticed as the day has gone on is there are certain weapons and specials that people have gotten more and more comfortable with, and I know you and I have gone back and forth about the Trizooka in particular since we're kind of vamping a bit as the teams get set, but man, that special I hated for a bit, and now I love it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the amount of pressure that you're able to put out with that Trizooka is going to be, incredible, and it's something that I don't think players should take for granted coming back to the splatter shot, right? The splatter shot is a weapon. Of course, we've seen Kensa shots play incredibly passive as of late, and now, even things like the 52 gal, where players in this role are playing very passive, they're playing very skirmish heavy, they're using a lot of their tools at their defenses more so to lock down areas as opposed to actually try to be aggressive. This splatter shot is a tool to aggress. This splatter shot is a tool to take care of business, and now with that Trizooka returning back with a fresher form, that is going to be another special to take a look at, and just how large of an impact that's going to have on the map. Let me tell you, I think it's going to have a lot larger of an impact than the Killer Whale 5-1s.
Oh, I agree entirely. And part of the reason is, and a lot of people have expressed this sentiment on Twitter as well, Charger is so strong right now. Of course, we all knew that once Ink Armor was gone, Charger would have a bit of time to have fun again, which is something they have been able to say for a minute. But the map design too, there are so many areas on especially the Splatoon 3 maps where you can have your Charger players sit in essentially mid, maybe a little bit further up than mid, but they can hit the drop down. And a lot of these maps don't have the big areas that you can turf to build your special that we got to see a lot of in 2. So if you're running an aggressive comp, what do you need to get rid of an enemy Charger? Trizooka. You pop it, they either move or they go down, and sometimes they don't have a choice in the matter.
Yeah, and I think that as the game starts to develop and mature more, we're going to see a few other things start to pop up. I think one of the largest things that I just don't know that there are many kits for right now that work well are this Tri-Strike as well, right? The Ink Strike returning as well. I think that'll be, once players start to figure out exactly how that works, I think it's a little weird to use like on the Slosher for the folks that were using that in the Splatfest World Premiere, but, I think that special will also come in. Probably not going to see it too much today because I doubt we're going to see a lot. And in fact, I think a lot of these players that you're going to see today are reverting back to the tendencies they're comfortable with. They're reverting back to the Teta-missile weapons that can stand back, charge up missiles, and hopefully try to get something done. It doesn't feel like it's really working as well as it was in 2, and in fact it's going to be something, and that's one of the reasons why we're seeing a lot of these scrappier fights, why we're seeing a lot of trades, why we're seeing very few actual definitive wipeouts.
Yeah, well, I think it's difficult. The one part of the missile play that we saw at the end of 2 is that everything that it was built around was also the immediate follow-up. Now, because you don't have armor and because the people shooting the missiles aren't Kensa splatter shots, there's not as much immediate follow-up here, that's the other half of the whole displacement meta is, okay, you moved, now we take your spot. But if you don't have players who are comfortable with the weapons that have it, and as you noted, there are not many, it can be difficult to truly get a follow-up. And also, people, I think, are remembering or trying to remember how to fight without ink armor. And it's very, very different these days. Tacticooler is not ink armor.
It is no ink armor.
They serve very different purposes. Both very good, but very different purposes.
Incredibly different. You cannot just treat Tacticooler like it's your armor, right? You can't just start running forward into your enemy team and expect to get stuff done. It's just not going to work. You might have a little bit of an advantage, of course, but at the end of the day, you're just not going to actually get that done. You see the crowd starting to build up here. We have let folks know that we're going to be starting, but of course, it is a little late. What's up, everybody? How are you all doing out there? And of course, hope you all online are joining us from home. And hope you're ready for a very fun day of competitive Splatoon action. Hope you've been enjoying the stream so far. And yeah, because it's been one heck of a day around here. Nine, so you were playing earlier, of course. What was your experience like playing, not all of the weapons in the game, of course, but all the weapons have at least one kit, right?
Sure.
How did that feel? Because that's unique, right, to what's been happening here that we haven't really gotten to experience, even at PAX.
Yeah, I would say the big takeaway that I had from today's action is that there's a lot of comfortability in what you know, especially if you've come from Splatoon 2 playing a number of different short-range shooters. We saw a lot of that today, but the specialists, I think, stood out even more. On our team, Gingerbread Man 17, he was a tried-and-true roller main in Splatoon 2, played on a number of different very strong teams with it. So when he saw that Flingza had missiles, he was like, perfect. So we actually did get the opportunity to play around missiles, and I think that because displacement is still an important part of this game, but you have to go about it differently now, that's going to be what the stronger teams are able to do, how they're going to crack that. Because I do think that the engagements are skewed in this game towards the team that's attacking.
Yes.
There are a lot of ways to hit enemies as they're trying to get back into it, and you can get very big scores very easily. So that's the part that was interesting to watch, because I watched a lot of the really strong teams even when I wasn't playing.
Yeah.
That, I think, beyond simply the weapons you pick, it's trying to find your way through and attacking and how you can coordinate in a game that isn't quite as easy to coordinate in.
Yeah, and of course, it'll be incredibly interesting to see how these teams are able to coordinate. You know, these are some of the teams that have come together and as of today have proven themselves to be, the standouts for play and competition today. So we'll have to see what they do provide. Of course, we haven't gotten to talking much about the teams themselves, so let's do that real quick while we have a moment. Lemons versus test1. These are probably not team names you've heard of because they're pickups more for lands, but the players you certainly have heard of. Nine, who stands out to you?
I mean, when you look at test1 here, these are names that I've seen for a long time. Jump, Seth, Landon, Sufi, and then Starnian, which I believe is an Ant name here, or at the very least, I know Ant is apparently in the building here. And these are incredibly strong players who use, I would say, somewhat off-kilter weapons here. I've been scared of this squeezer kit from day one, and hopefully we will get to see that put. I know the last set, you got to see what that is, but that's such a devastating weapon, plays at a great range.
I mean, Wall Trizuka, right?
Wall Trizuka on a good main. On a good main.
On a good main. I don't think you get much better than that. But of course, folks, we are heading into game one of the semifinals here in just a little bit. Get ready, folks, because we are coming into it. Welcome to the City of Chaos. It's taken over here in Sandusky, Ohio, as we are preparing for semifinals, and we'll get into it now.
Starting off on Splat Zone's Undertow Spillway here, one of, if not the most unique map and mode in the game. Two small zones that these teams will have to take, and a lot of glass and a narrow center.
A lot of glass, narrow center, and a few weapons that we might not have been used to seeing. In fact, Flabber going over to that Tri-Slosh, or something I want to talk about here. Probably one of the only weapons we've seen so far with Inkjet. We haven't seen that much. I'm curious to see just how well Inkjet might stack up versus a Trizuka.
Yeah, it actually, I think, does a great job pressuring certain parts on the map like this. And I honestly think that the main weapon, people forgot how strong the main weapon by itself is. Frankly, I think that it's a really unique kit here for it, as we see already Pandemonium on the board and some missiles coming out here on the other side. A foil Flingza, or rather just a regular Flingza, has come to party as well. So we talked it up, Kbot, and there it is, getting another pick.
There it is, coming in clutch, and you see these zones start to get taken here. Lemons are going to get the first kind of larger hold here, but with only two members up, they're not going to have that ability to take a lot of turf in front of them, and so now we're going to see the approach from test1 all immediately. Ant's going to get taken out here by this Tri-Slosher we keep talking about. Of course, is going to go down to that range of, you guessed it, that Flingza.
Yep, it's a perfectly fine weapon here, and I think that, again, in a game where it's difficult to move this thing, it plays to the strengths of what it's trying to do. I actually like the way that they're slowly moving up here with their wall, getting another pick there. It always looks so easy when you see it like that, but there's a lot of coordination that goes into it. Another foil flings, regular flings up, matching up with that. And, you know, surprise, surprise, we're 90 seconds into the game. Both teams holding it to the 80s. This certainly isn't Splatoon 2.
This certainly is no Splatoon 2, as these teams are still trying to figure things out. And again, you're not seeing that same level of special coordination come out of these teams. You're not seeing them be able to find those aggressive plays, find those wipeouts, and move forward on the map. And it's just these teams trading back and forth. Now you'll notice Lemons giving a little bit of space. They're waiting to charge up some of their specials to come back online here. But now we're going to see some trades happen on top of these zones as the Tacticooler has been popped. Lemons starting to storm forward. It's going to be a 3-down situation now, and so it is going to mean that Lemons is going to have a decent bit of control. But again, only 2 members up. They don't have a lot of spots on this map to really take firm control.
No, they don't. And this is where they would really like to have maybe a more immediate backliner here like this Charger, because that makes the lockout phase that much more difficult. Now, though, as it goes here, they're actually going to need to be very careful about how they try to pivot. The Trizuka does find somebody. That's a huge pick. It's going to allow them to move forward a little bit, and is going to move forward to try to get another pick here. But again, like you said, Kbot, not quite the same level of coordination we're used to seeing. It might not matter anyway because Ant might just clutch it out. As it stands, though, they still haven't taken it. Finally do, but some damage certainly done over the course of that push.
Damage done there already, down to that 35-point mark. We're halfway through this game. That's going to be quite a lead to take care of, especially if these teams keep just trading back and forth on top of this zone. Lemons still can't quite seem to find their way in. 2-down situation, 3 down now for test1, and that jump is going to get taken care of as well. Lemons in control, remaining in control here, and they might, you know, it's Splatoon 2, they might be setting up for a lockout here, but I have a feeling this zone will flip back.
Yeah, they've got a Tacticooler here, which is the nice thing. The Tacticooler, everyone talks about it on the offensive side. How about what this thing can do on defense here? Even if you get wiped when you have this, you get to come back with your special almost even stronger than your opponent. They are going to deal with a special on one side as 2 go down. It does look like at least the bottom zone is going to be flipped, and I think they will have to move back. But because they have the Tacticooler, they'll get a jump in. Goes and gets the swing. Flavor goes ahead and gets another one as well. And now look at this. Even though they did lose control of the map, they have not yet lost the zone. And if they take it back, they'll continue to score.
Yeah, because they keep trading, right? You saw that teamwork synergy of test1 was trying to come forward. They were trying to work as a 4-member unit, but they unfortunately were going down and getting picked off in some of these cases. Now, warning shot fired from this Ink back. Not going to be able to find the person on the back lines here. And again, still just charging up, still trying to just lock things down. But we're not seeing a lot of this happen here. Maybe there's an opportunity now with a few members down of Lemons. That pick is going to be huge as well, as they're going to have plenty of breathing room around this zone. But they have to be careful of Flabber, who's starting to charge up, is going to get taken out there. And now we're starting to see this firm hold come together for test1.
Yeah, that was dangerous there. They opted to try to keep their last 2 members in the middle of the map, hoping that maybe they could create a skirmish and a fight there to deal with it. Instead, they got pushed back, and now I think they're going to have a really difficult time. Yeah, I was about to say there's going to be someone coming from the right side. And now look at this, Kbot. Already, they're all the way pushed back. This should be lead, and it might be a whole lot more.
And it's looking likely here. Someone from Lemons is going to have to be able to find a pick here. That Inkback is at the ready to try to help push back in, but that Inkback is going to be a little bit difficult. You see Locke trying to push forward with that Jet Squelcher, but cannot quite seem to get a lot done. They've got to focus their minds on the zone right now. Ava goes down on the top. Flabber is going to try to drop, but it's not going to be enough, and that is going to be the knockout. test1 is going to be able to find this game 1 in the best of 5.
And, you know, we talked about what the Squeezer is capable of, but that weapon plays at such a disgusting range for the majority of weapons that you're going to see here. The Tri-Slosher can't do anything about it. The NZAP certainly can't do anything about it here. And even the Jet Squelcher in situations where those 2 matched up, it's, you know, the Jet Squelcher, not the best main weapon. And
right.
Squeezer, pretty good, especially with the addition of some of these new abilities in this game.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Especially when it's on a player like Ant, right? Who has been playing this weapon for, I mean, before Squeezer was actually good or common from what we'd see in Splatoon 2, right? Ant was one of the first people to really start bringing that out. And so for Ant to be piloting the Squeezer again in Splatoon 3, especially in right now in the very early stages of this game where the main weapons are just much more impactful, I feel like, than the special weapons, because people still haven't figured out how these special weapons work right. So it's going to be all about trying to figure and utilize those advantages, and we'll have to see what the answers are coming in from Lemons. I imagine, though, you mentioned the weakness of the Tri-Slosher. Flabber has also pulled out the Splatter Shot today. I expect to see that back. I expect to see the Trizuka back, and hopefully that'll provide a little bit more utility.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a versatile kit that, again, one of the things that we forget about the quad shooter meta is that we spent more than half of Splatoon 2 asking for Tenatech to get buffed because we all played it in Splatoon 1. And, you know, it's something that there's always going to be a lot of comfortability with. But you made a really interesting point where the impact of the main weapons, because coordinating specials isn't quite the same as it was in Splatoon 3. And I think that the part of this game that's going to be interesting to see, regardless of map or mode, is how teams opt to try to take back or defend in situations where they do have the opportunity to go all four together, or if, like we saw in that last game, they opt to leave their two skirmishers in the middle. And I think that that's one code that hasn't really been cracked yet, because there aren't the same defensive specials that there were in Splatoon 2.
Right, exactly. But, you know, that said, still plenty of defenses. A lot of it is just going to be a matter of time and a matter of these players putting in the hours to figure out how all of this works. We are now getting right into Game 2. By the way, folks, we are in counter picks here. So now this is our first chance at some of these teams try to pull out these counter picks. We are heading to Clamblitz. A lot of changes here to this mode.
A lot of changes here, and of course it would be on Mincemeat Metalworks. I've commentated a game on here.
No.
Yeah, this went the distance. I don't think this will be the same time, but I will say the sentiment about this that was pulled out is, as you can see, you've either got a really long path that you can take that involves a couple jumps, or you've got a path that involves going over grates that you, of course, cannot paint and move across very slowly. So neither side great, so that's why you see teams at this level tend to give each other a ton of respect and try to wait for the perfect opportunity before they make that push.
And oftentimes that perfect opportunity doesn't come up. In Splatoon 2, they were so common to see wipes, to see these things, but in Splatoon 3, with things like the tactical, or with things like the range that everyone's giving and the respect that everyone's giving for this game, at the end of the day, you're not seeing a lot of those wipeouts. You're not seeing those abilities to actually push forward. And there it is, Tactical are already on the field here, and multiple members are coming down around it all over the map. But of course, you'll have to see the Lemons immediately charge back up, immediately with that quick respawn, coming back in order to make sure that test1 doesn't have much of an advantage here at all.
Yeah, and this is where it all starts to matter. These two picks that just happened there to Lock and Flavor are the actual important ones here, and certainly now it's a wipe. Yeah, anybody can tell you that that's going to be an important one, but they needed to get that second layer.
But where's the power claim right now for test1? They still have to build that up. They've been trying to figure out, how the main weapons work. They still need to bring these claims together. Now Seth has one, Ink back as well, able to throw out here and provide that path forward. And now we see actually two members coming in from the far side, Landon and Ant coming forward. They've got a few claims of their own. They're going to be able to get this in, but it just doesn't look like it's going to be a lot. You see that Charger now has a few claims, but is kind of backing away. And as these members of Lemons are pushing in, we're going to see that barrier rise back up. So 71, certainly a push, and hey, a push might be enough to win it here.
Yeah, I mean, push bearing the lead here, that they've controlled the flow of the game for the last 2 minutes here. Clearly, they've been able to work things around when people are in mid here. They feel like they're a little bit more confident in those fights, and they do have a double wall composition, which should not be forgotten in a match where mobility is key.
Yeah, absolutely. So now we'll see what the response is from Lemons. Again, what are they going to do to look to try to find this engagement? Perhaps, it's worth noting here, Ava switching over to the Dynamo Roller is something that we haven't talked about so far in this match. Gonna be interested to see what that can do, but that's another Tacticooler online for them. Perhaps they're really trying to put all of their marbles or all of their clams in that Tacticooler.
Yeah, well, I think that they almost have to just to keep up on the defensive side. We talked about it earlier, but Tactical, I would argue, is almost more powerful when you're defending than when you're attacking, because again, it gives you essentially an entire second lease when you're trying to make a defense. This entire time, again, 3 minutes now, they're finally getting back into mid. The only reason this push isn't deeper is because they had the Tacticooler at the right time.
But here are those specials coming out of test1, and you're seeing how much space they can take, especially off that Inkjet from Ant. Now that foil roller is coming on forward here. It's going to be able to find the jump as well onto Flabber's Inkjet, and so that's going to be another 2-down situation. A Tacticooler wasn't online at that moment in time, and there's so much oranging just across the entire map. Lemons are really going to have to try to find an answer to work their way back in here, but it looks like they might actually try to come back in. Locke is going to be able to find that pick, and that one onto Ant was huge to try to slow the momentum. But again, pandemonium is ensuing here as test1 is still threatening a push.
Yeah, this Charger is unbelievable, and the shots that it can take here, again, from mid, you can essentially make sure that the opponent gets nowhere near. And now, right, they're really pushing in only out of, I won't even call it necessity, just because they kind of feel like it, and a slight miss there, but still almost got it through. Let's see if Ant can move in. No, and again, because your respawn is so close to the pivotal checkpoint, this is why it's that much more difficult. Ant gonna go ahead and get the punish on the Flavor there. Locke really gonna have to fire this Inkvac out almost just to at least keep mid. For the time being, again, they haven't really gotten any foothold on the center, and once again, Seth and the rest of the team attacking this right side.
Backing the right side here. Flapper's going to go down. Mars goes down as well. There it is. There's the wipeout. And now test1 is going to be able to push in. They've got a power clam in tow here as well. Not many clams to follow up for now, but there's plenty on the map that they're going back to find now. The question will be, will the Lemons be able to defend as we start to turn our attention back towards this barrier? Flapper going down. Ava going down here as well. Seth is going to be able to come up clutch with some of those clams that are back there. And there's still yet another spawn if they can find this pick on a Locke who is in their enemy territory. 44 down is this push. It is going to be real difficult to see Lemons come back in this one.
Yeah, so difficult here. They're fighting for their lives just to get out. Ant is still over on this side. How's about it? I don't know if that was all 4 of them or just 3, but again, when that weapon gets set up on that perch, you've got no way to come down. You've got no way to attack, and this is why teams give each other so much respect on this, so that basically what Ant just did to them doesn't happen to them.
And that's exactly the name of the game here. You see the impact of the Trizuka, and now Seth is just going to be able to walk forward, has the wall in tow to be able to take care of those 2 members. And test1 is going to take game 2 here. They are looking incredibly strong, and like they've got a game plan.
Yeah, there's a great quote that I heard in chess commentary of all places that is, the threat is sometimes greater than the execution. And in that case, the threat was that we have 3/4 of the map at all times, and eventually we're going to push through. And because of that, you get a little antsy. You go down and you try to fight. You say, someone's here by themselves. I can go ahead and go after them. That's almost never the case. At this level, we've seen it, but when you're getting attacked and when you think you have to try to make something happen, it's that much more difficult. And I want to go back to a point I made earlier about how there's just not a lot of turf that you can take in those positions on most of these new maps where you're respawning, and because of that, you may say, why weren't they building their specials and coming out? You can't. There's not enough room.
Yeah, right. There's just not enough room. And the other thing, though, is that even if you can, you certainly can't do it the same way you did in 2.
Right.
And that's what a lot of these players are familiar with, right? We are, how many hours? Like 22 hours maybe at this point?
Somewhere in that range.
Into playing this game. You know, how are we actually supposed to charge up our specials? How are we actually supposed to push with our specials? How are we actually supposed to, do all of these elements of the new game? How does that spawn feature impact everything, right? You can't just sit underneath your spawn and try to paint out for a little bit. You're going to have to find another way to do that. And so, given right now that we're still very early on, it's just going to be that much more difficult to do, and especially with these players, especially with nerves on the line, especially with, potential tournament win on the line, and with all of these other things, it's going to be that much more difficult to take care of.
We'll be going to Splat Zones on Mako Mart. Wait
Talk
a
about
minute.
comfort.
I was going to say, we just said that this wasn't Splatoon 2, but here we are finding ourselves back in the comfortable aisles of one Mako Mart.
Yeah, and you have to imagine, Flabber will probably feel pretty comfortable playing that Tri-Slosher.
Yep.
You have to imagine it takes out a little bit more of that range, right? Maybe Ant is able to do a little bit less on Mako if you're thinking about this in terms of like what you're actually looking for. And potentially Ava can actually switch over to something else. I've also seen Ava pull out the Clash Blaster today.
Clash, I think... I'm not entirely sure. See, here's the problem when you play on hotel Wi-Fi for 2 hours. You don't know how good the Clash Blaster actually is and what range it plays at.
But Splat Bomb Trizuka.
The winning combination.
The winning combination. We're heading into things here. Splat Zones, Mako, Mart, Game 3, double trouble here as that Flingza comes out twice. Are we sure this isn't Splatoon 2? They're just playing Tentamissiles.
Tentamissiles here, and a jet is on the map, and it's not the one building Tentamissiles out. We've joked so much and said surely we aren't going to see everybody switch over to this weapon simply because it has missiles. my prediction may have been incorrect in that regard.
Unfortunately, at least incorrect for hour 22, but we're starting to see how this one is going to shake out. A lot of trades. Again, this game is right now all about this scrap as these players are still charging on top of the zone. They're still trying to get work done with their main weapons. Ant's going to be able to pick off one. Now picks up this Trizuka, able to get a point-blank shot, and now is going to continue pumping out that pressure. That 2 down from Lemons is going to hurt.
Yeah, it's going to hurt, and now this is really the only time that you're totally okay, because at least you know how to paint out of your spawn this time, and you do know that missiles will get people out of the way. The question is, what is the follow-up going to be? The Jet has pushed up here to try to make something happen, but where's everybody else? You do not want to be pushed up like this. We need the tax cooler. It is out. They do have at least some help here, but again, it's going to continue to be Ant on the bottom of the screen here. They're able to take zone at least, but until they're able to really remove Ant, give Ant a good reason to get out of here, you're going to see a lot of pain for a lot of time.
And there, Mars is going to get taken out by the Trizuka shot. Ant firing that one is able to catch out Ava here as well. Are you sure Ant didn't have access to this game early? Because somehow he's able to master this Trizuka arc.
The arc feels so natural, but I am most impressed with just how natural the shots are with this weapon. Getting run down from a lot of different angles, making it that much more difficult, but this is what it looks like and why this weapon is so ferocious here. I know a lot of people said, oh, it's just because it had the bubble blower. No, this weapon plays at good range and takes people out in 3 shots.
And here is the dangerous part you were talking about earlier. As Test 1 is starting to approach from that side, it's going to be that much more difficult for Lemons to build up their specials. And now you see that charger in place, able to rain down that sight line, able to pick off Mars there as well. 3-down situation for Lemons, and they just don't really have a lot that they can do. Flabber trying to get a little bit of work done here on that foil, flings it, but it's not going to be enough. I keep saying foil because I'm so used to seeing the foil. But nonetheless, 8 ticks of the timer left to go. They're trying to rush into zone. They're trying to get everything they can on top of this zone, but that's going to be the 0-second wipeout. Test 1 are going to punch their ticket to finals.
Very emphatically punching their ticket.
Indeed.
A real pop in that punch. And we talked so much before the set started here about Ant on that foil squeezer. We knew, well, I did it too. The squeezer. There's no foil squeezer yet. It's just a regular squeezer.
Just a squeezer.
Going to do that about 100 times. But we knew
Really?
that kit was going to be difficult to deal with. It was just going to be a matter of, would the main weapon without the boosts of main power up still be a viable main weapon? Who would really be able to do it? Well, how about one of the best to pilot the weapon in Splatoon 2 and devastating with every aspect of that kit?
Yeah, 100%. And again, we're talking about it. I have my doubts on things like the 52, right? And we were talking about this a little bit earlier as well. Based on what I'm seeing, I don't like this Killer Whale 5-1 idea, right? And even though I know it has wall, and I'm not discounting wall as a bad, sub-weapon, I think the 52 just doesn't have it cut out for you. But when you see that wall Trizuka composition on this squeezer, I think that's a combination that a lot of folks should be looking out for to come through here. So, yeah, and as you mentioned, Ant's been playing this weapon for, what, 3 years at this point?
In Splatoon 1.
Right. Yeah.
Hey,
might as well. So, yeah, of course, they'll be punching their tail. We will see plenty more of Ant's squeezer. So if you all loved that, stick around because there's more on the way. But I think this next set is going to be a treat as well with the next semifinal coming up. Are you enjoying yourself over there?
I am. This is so unbelievably comfortable, I should know.
I imagine, yeah.
My girlfriend made this for her, not for me. But she did agree to let me use it for this bit.
The bit that we did at the very beginning, yeah.